Welcome to Project Lakut Siches. We're going to be learning today Siche Beis in Chelek Yud Gimel, Parshas Korach, page 56. This Siche here is a Meire Gesicha on this Parsha, and here the Rebbe will go through the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash, the way it's explained in the Rambam, in Sefer HaMitzvahs and in Sefer HaYad. And the Rebbe will show us that there are three different ways how to understand, how to define this mitzvah. And from the Yukim and the Lashon Rambam and a few other things the Rebbe points out over here, the Rebbe comes to a completely new understanding, a deeper approach to what this mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash is all about. Min ha'ksuvim sheba parsha seinu, from the psukim of this week's parsha, ha'medabrim b'Shmiras HaMikdash, that speak about the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash. Lama the Rambam b'Sefer HaMitzvahs. The Rambam learns in the Sefer HaMitzvahs as follows: Shetzivanu lishmoir HaMikdash. The mitzvah is to guard the Beis HaMikdash. V'loleches svivoi tamid, and to walk around it constantly. L'chabdoi, to honor it. L'roimimoi, l'gadloi, to elevate its status, to exalt the Beis HaMikdash. And v'hu amroi, this is what the pasuk says: La'aron va'ata uvanecha itach lefnei oyel ha'edus, that you and Aaron and his children should be there by the oyel ha'edus. Reitz leimar, the pshat of the pasuk is atem tiu li lefonei tamid, you should be there in front of me constantly to do the shmira for the Beis HaMikdash. Ukvar nichbal zeh tzivi b'loshen acher, and it already says this mitzvah in another terminology, v'hu amrei, and this is what it says: v'shamru es mishmeres oyel moed v'chulu, that you should guard the oyel moed. This is the lashon of the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs. The Rebbe has a few questions on the lashon over here, but the Rebbe is first going to bring what the Rambam says in Sefer HaYad, in Hilchas Beis HaBchira, and then the Rebbe will come back to the Sefer HaMitzvahs as well. V'hinei b'Sefer HaYad mevayer Rambam es HaMitzvahs aseh l'shmiras HaMikdash v'zeh l'shoinoi. So here the Rambam explained this mitzvah as follows: Shmiras HaMikdash mitzvahs aseh. V'afal pi she'ein sham pachad me'oivim v'lo milistim. Although there's no fear, not from enemies, not from thieves, she'ein shmirasai ela kovedlai. The purpose of the shmira is just for honor, to give honor to the Beis HaMikdash. Ein edoime palterin sheyashal of shoimrin lepalterin she'ein of shoimrin. You can't compare a palace that has guards to a palace that has no guards there. So that's the definition of the mitzvah itself. And then Amamshach b'Halacha Beis, the Rambam brings us more details in the second halacha. Ushmira zu mitzvasa kol halayla. When's the time for this mitzvah? All night. Who does this mitzvah? V'hashoimrim he'makayanim v'aleviyim. The guards are the kayanim and the leviyim. Shenema ato v'necha itoch lefnei oyel ha'edus koloima atem tiu shoimrim li. You should stand there, guard for me. V'harinema v'shomres mishmeres oyel mayid. And v'nemar, and then it says yet another pasuk, a third pasuk, v'achayim keidma lefnei oyel moed mizracha Moshe v'Aaron ubanav shemrei mishmeres hakodesh. There is a ha'ara later on in the Sikha where the Rebbe points out why the Rambam brings these three psukim. So this is the two halachas in the Rambam, the two main halachas of the Rambam benegeh to this mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash. B'tzarech lahavin. So now we have the following questions. Aleph. Tam hashinui b'sefer ha'alachos mi b'sefer ha'mitzvahs. What's the reason for the change that we see here between the way the Rambam writes it in the Sefer ha'alachos and the way it's written in Sefer ha'mitzvahs? She b'sefer ha'yad hu mevius haksuvim leb'seif. In the Sefer ha'alachos, the Rambam brings the psukim as the source for the mitzvah at the end of the second halacha, b'halacha beis. And not only that, and it's only being brought as a proof for one detail, for the detail of to identify who has this mitzvah, that the mitzvah lies upon the kayanim and the leviyim. The bepashtus kavanase loymar shemiksuvim eila anu lemeidim aprat shechiv shmirazu mutla la kayanim v'aleviyim. He's only bringing the psukim for this detail, to prove that the mitzvah lies upon the kayanim and the leviyim. But he's not bringing the psukim right in the beginning as a source for the very mitzvah itself, as the Rambam usually does in Sefer HaYad. Whenever he brings a mitzvah, a chiyuv, or whatever it is, he brings right away the source of the pasuk in the Torah. Here the Rambam doesn't do that. Masha'en came b'Sefer HaMitzvahs, which is not the case in Sefer HaMitzvahs, that the Rambam immediately brings the source, sheheim mokiv v'limad aletzim chayvus hashmira. Right in the beginning, the Rambam brings the source that shetzivanu lishmair, and v'hu amrei, this is the pasuk, la'aron ato v'necha. Why does the Rambam in the Sefer Hayad wait until the end and only bring the psukim for this one detail to identify who this obligation lies upon? Second question is, if in fact the mitzvah of guarding the Beis HaMikdash is not because of any fear of enemies or of thieves, it's simply a way to honor the Beis HaMikdash, Shal HaMikdash. If so, the Shmira of the Beis HaMikdash should be all day and all night. But the Rambam clearly says that the mitzvah only applies a whole night. And by day there is no mitzvah of Shmira. If we were to say that the mitzvah is because we're afraid of thieves or enemies, so that's a Shmira that's needed by day and by night. But if the idea is, that's a mitzvah that's relevant primarily at night. So you would be able to explain why it's needed at night and not by day. But since we're saying that the point over here is that it's honorable to have guards standing by this palace, by the Beis HaMikdash, that honor should be there by day and by night. What is the difference? To add another detail to this question, in the psukim that the Rambam here quotes, in these psukim, there's no mention, there's no hint to the fact that the mitzvah is only at nighttime. And the simple understanding of these psukim are that the shmira should be all time, day and night. As the Rambam himself says in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, that you should be there in front of me constantly. The Rambam uses the expression of tamid that seems to imply that this is equal by day and by night. Dalid, now going back to the Lashon of the Sefer HaMitzvahs, there's a detail that the Rambam adds that seems to be superfluous and it's not exactly clear what it's doing here. The Rambam says, that there's shmira, and there's also that they walk around the Beis HaMikdash constantly. What exactly is this addition here of walking around constantly? What is this all about? What connection does it have to the mitzvah, which is to stand guard, to guard the Beis HaMikdash? That's this new thing that the Rambam sticks in here, to walk around constantly. So the Rebbe begins as follows. We'll understand this by the following introduction. Let's look at the opening of both two Mesechtes, Tamid and Midas, which talk about this mitzvah of Shmiras and Mikdash, and they both open with the same halacha. That there were three places designated for the Kayanim to stand there guarding the Beis HaMikdash. So since the Mishnah repeats this twice, in one of these Mishnayos, it's extra. Mesechta Midas is the Mesechta following Mesechta Tamid, so if it says it right there, it's not like it's in another Seder or even in another far away. It's right there. We just learned it in Mesechta Midas, or in Mesechta Tamid that is, and right afterwards in Mesechta Midas it repeats the exact same Mishnah. The Mefarish to Mesechta Tamid says as follows. Because the Mesechta of Tamid is coming to teach you all the halachas about the Tamid. Aveidas HaKayanim, which is the Aveidah of the Kayanim. So it begins with the Kayanim, where they were the night before, that they're there guarding, Makim Shchivasam, the place where they're sleeping, and then from there he comes, so when they wake up in the morning, they come into the Beis HaMikdash, what they do the first thing, what they do the second thing, and so on, is just sort of a lead-in, an opening to the story of the Hemshech of the halachas that he speaks about, the Korban Tamid. So meaning what the Mefarish is really saying is, the place to talk about the Shmirah of the Beis HaMikdash is not a Mesechta Tamid, it's a Mesechta Midas, and that's where it's supposed to be, and that's where it is. In Mesechta Tamid, it comes Derech Agav, just as a lead-in into what follows in the halachas of Tamid. Avol, the Rebbe doesn't accept this, Kivin the Seif Bo Kvar Mishnah Zu, since in the end, the fact is, even if it's only as a lead-in, but the Mishnah is there. There is a Mishnah in Tamid that already tells us the halachas about B'shloisha Mekaymis HaKayanim Shemrim. So why does it have to repeat it again in the beginning of Mesechta Midas? which is a following after what it already says in Masechta Tamid about these three places that it already said there. So why does it have to say it again? In Masechta Midas, where it actually talks more details about this Shmirah, it should have begun with the continuation, where it says, B'chof Aleph Mekaimis, that there are 21 places, Halavim Sheimrim Bebeis HaMikdash, that the Levim would stand guard in the Beis HaMikdash. That's something new that I didn't say in Masechta Tamid. That's where it should have begun, in Masechta Midas, to discuss the additional places that the Levim would stand guard. So the Rebbe adds, after Yeshloimar, although we could simply say, the Kivin, the Tzarech Lashmi'inon, Shmiras Leviim, Mevidin, Shmira B'Shlei Musai. Since he's adding more details and he's talking about the Shmira of the Leviim, the 21 places where the Leviim guarded, so the Tana goes back and tells you also the 3 places that the Kainim guarded to teach you the whole halacha of the Shmira in fully, in all the details. So we could say that. But the Rebbe will explain over here that the Shmira brought in Masechta Tamid and the Shmira brought in Masechta Midas are 2 different things. It's 2 different halachas. So the explanation for this we could say as follows. Mitzvahs Shmiras HaMikdash. This mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash Yeshlavara Bebezefanim could be explained in one of 2 ways. Aleph, Shehiprat Be'inyani Beis HaMikdash. It's a detail relevant for the Beis HaMikdash itself. It's part of what's relevant for the structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself. Beis, another way to explain this is Shiprat Ba'avedes HaKayanim V'Alavim. It's a detail, it's one of those things as far as the Aveda of the Kayanim and the Leviim that they had to do, Sha'aleim Lishmer Es HaMikdash. This is one of the jobs that the Kayanim and the Leviim had in the Beis HaMikdash. When the Rebbe uses the term Avedas, it doesn't mamish mean mamish like Aveda of a carbon. But Aveda as in a job, one of the jobs, not necessarily, the Rebbe in the Ha'ara points out that there's an argument about this, but it's one of the jobs that were placed upon the Kayanim. What does the Rebbe really mean by these 2 Eifanim that he's saying here? Again, let's just review quickly. Either it's a detail that's relevant for the Beis HaMikdash itself, or it's a position, part of what the Kainim have to do. They bring karbanis, they do all kinds of work in the Beis HaMikdash, and they also have to stand guard. It's relevant to it's one of the jobs placed upon the Kainim. See here, the Rebbe explains this in different words. It clarifies what the Rebbe means with these 2 Eifanim. B'signei nacher, to put it in different words. Mitzvahs Shmiras HaMikdash hi davar hanigeya laHaMikdash atzmai. The mitzvah of guarding the Mikdash is something that's relevant or that's demanded from the Beis HaMikdash itself. Chayvas chefze. HaMikdash tzarech liyis nishma. It's a chayve that the object, the structure, the Beis HaMikdash itself demands that it should be guarded. That's the source of this chiyuv. Ela shechiyev shmirizu hotel ala kayin v'alavim. Who is the one that does the Shmirah? The Shmirah is placed upon the Kayin and Levim that do this job. But the concept of the Shmirah, the source and the necessity of the Shmirah is that the Beis HaMikdash itself demands that it should be guarded. Or perhaps we could say, no, the Beis HaMikdash doesn't demand this Shmirah. It doesn't need it, it doesn't demand it, that's not what it's about. It's originally something which is placed as an obligation upon the people, upon these kainim. Mi mitzvahs va'avedes ha'kainim v'halavim. This is the aveda of the kainim and levim that they should stand guard. Just like the Eibusha gives them a mitzvah to bring the other karbanis, to do all the aveda in the Beis HaMikdash, the Eibusha places upon them a mitzvah that they should stand guard on this Beis HaMikdash. Of course, the chiv relates to the Beis HaMikdash, to the cheftzah, but the chiv is upon them that they should stand guard in the Beis HaMikdash. So here, the Rebbe will clarify this even further and explain what this is based on. We have to understand what's the purpose of the Shmirah, so we'll be able to define what the source of this obligation is. So simply we can say, this will depend on what is really the reason, why is it required to have the Shmirah. If the reason for the Shmirah is for the honor of the Beis HaMikdash, you can't compare a palace with guards to a palace that has no guards. So then the whole mitzvah of Shmirah, where does this mitzvah come from? It's a detail in the Mikdash itself. The Mikdash itself demands this honor. Because it's a holy place, it's a palterin, and it demands that you should give it the right honor. That's one pshat. So according to this, it's connected to the Chefza. The Chefza itself demands this Shmira. But if the reason would be, as it would simply be mashma and the pasuk and in Rashi and Parshas Bamidbar and in other places, that it's all about keeping the people that don't belong there out, a zar or a tameh v'chayetze b'zeh, anybody that doesn't belong should be reminded to stay out. Or maybe to guard the precious kelim that are on in the Beis HaMikdash. So that's not the pshat that the Beis HaMikdash demands this respect, that you should give it respect, you should give it honor. It's not what it's about. It's one of the positions that the Kohanim had to do. It was a necessary thing to be done in the Beis HaMikdash, just like there are all the jobs that the Kohanim do. There's the karbanis that they bring and all the other things that they took care of in the Beis HaMikdash. They had to stand guard to keep order. Whoever belongs in should come in, whoever belongs out should go out. This was one of their positions that they had to manage and take care of and organize things in the Beis HaMikdash, that it's placed upon the Kohanim. They're the ones, and the Leviim as well, regarding the Shmirah, that they stand there to make sure whoever belongs should be there and whoever is not is not. So these are the two different understandings, definitions of what this mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash is all about. So based on this, we would be able to explain this mitzvah of Shmirah is mentioned in the beginning of Masechta Tamid, and also in the beginning of Masechta Midas. Masechta Midas in Yana Hu Kishma. Masechta Midas is, as its name indicates, talks about the midah is the size, the measurements of all the different things in the Beis HaMikdash, its shape and the way it's built and so on. It's talking about the chefza of the Beis HaMikdash itself. It's not speaking about the avodas or whatever other mitzvahs, the avodas of karbanis or whatever other mitzvahs that their place has to be where these avodas are done, is in the Beis HaMikdash. Ki'im hamidas Beis HaMikdash atzmai. It's talking about the very structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself. Amnam b'Masechta Tamid. What's the theme of Masechta Tamid? Hamiduber ba'avodas hanases beBeis HaMikdash. Masechta Tamid is speaking about the avodah of karbanis, the avodah of Tamid that's done in the Beis HaMikdash. Ubalashon Rambam, the Rambam says in Pirush HaMishnayis, Hey achoyim akrivim atamid. It teaches me how they will makriv the carbon tamid. So therefore, so therefore the Masechtas, it's repeated twice, this halacha of Shmirah, ki b'mitzvahs Shmiras HaMikdash yeshnam shnei inyanim. Because we could say that the truth is that the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash actually has both aspects to it. It's one of the details of the Avodas HaKayanim that just like all the other Avodas they had to do there, it's placed upon them, this Avodah, to stand guard and to keep who has to be out, and whoever comes in should come in, and so on. And then there's Inyan B'Mikdash Hatzmai. Then there's the fact that this structure, this holy Beis HaMikdash, demands honor. It demands that you should stand and stand guard and honor it. And therefore, there's an Inyan in the action that's negeya, that's relevant to the structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself, and therefore it's also brought in Masechta Midas, where it speaks about the actual structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself. So now we have the hezber of why it's repeated twice in the Mishnayos, and we get a deeper understanding here. We have the two different ways, and both are true, the Rebbe says, of understanding what this mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash is all about. It has a dual purpose. One thing is just simply to keep things in order. Whoever doesn't belong shouldn't enter. That was the job that was placed on the Kohanim. And the other thing is that the very Mikdash itself demands this honor, that it has to have Shmirah to give it honor. Move on. Now coming back to what we were discussing before in the Rambam, we could now understand Masha Rambam loyhevi behilchos beis habchira psukim ral leraye al etzem din shmiras hamikdash. Why did the Rambam not do as he usually does and bring the psukim for the mitzvah right in the beginning when he defines the mitzvah itself? According to the Rambam in the Sefer Ayad LaHalacha, mitzvahs shmiras hamikdash hiprat ve'inyan ba'mikdash atzmai. The Rambam is learning, and the Rambam holds that the mitzvah of shmiras hamikdash is a detail in the Beis HaMikdash itself. The Beis HaMikdash demands this honor. Ukolashayna ein shmirasi el kavod loy and edoim lepalten sheyesh olav shemrin lepalten shein olav shemrin. When you have guards, that adds a great honor to the structure of the Beis Hamikdash. Ukedemochach gam mizeh shehevi kol dinei shmiras hamikdash behilchas Beis Habchira. The Rebbe says another geschmack of art. You see this from the very fact where the Rambam places the halachas. He puts the halachas of shmiras Beis Hamikdash in the halachas of Beis Habchira. Shebehen meduber al dvar kedushas u'mitzvahs Beis Habchira atzmai. It speaks about the holiness and the mitzvah of building the Beis Habchira itself. It's talking about the building of the Beis Hamikdash. This is not the place where the Rambam discusses the halachas that pertain to the avodas that are done in the Beis Hamikdash. As the Rebbe brings in the Order 27, that's Hilchas Klei HaMikdash, or Hilchas Tmidim U'Musafim, there talks about the Aveda. So why did the Rambam bring the halachas of Shmirah, which seems to be just one other position, one other job that the Leviim and the Kohanim have in the Beis Hamikdash? Why does he bring it in Hilchas Beis Habchira? The answer is because the Rambam holds that it's the actual building of the Beis Hamikdash itself, the Palterin, that demands this honor. So therefore it is a detail related to the Beis Hamikdash itself. That's why it belongs there in Hilchas Beis Habchira. So now the Rebbe says, Ulechein, Lehevi Ksuvim Elu, Leraya Letzim Din Shmira. Therefore the Rambam does not bring the psukim, whether the psukim of Korach or the psukim of Parshas Bamidbar, where it talks as a source for the very definition of what the mitzvah of the Shmira itself is. Because all you see in these psukim is Rak Aleph, number 1, Hachiyav Gavra Shalakayanim Valavim Lishmas Abayis. The obligation that's placed upon the people, upon the Kohanim and the Levim, that they have to do Shmira. There's no indication in this pasuk directly that it's the mikdash that demands it. The mikdash demands this honor. These psukim are just talking about the mitzvah, the obligation of the mitzvah, the chiyuv of the mitzvah. Who's the one that does it? It's the Kohanim and the Levim. But the deeper definition of the mitzvah, that what's the source of it, who demands this shmira in the first place, that it's the Beis Hamikdash itself that demands this honor, that you don't see here in these psukim. Beis ve'ikir, and even more so, even a greater point, Haksub in the Parshas Korach, Bo'am behemshach l'tainis b'nei Yisrael, kol ha'korev el mishkan Hashem yomus geimer. These psukim in Parshas Korach follows the complaint of Yidden that after they saw what happened with Korach and so on, they said that look, it's such a danger here. Whoever enters in a place where he's not supposed to go, he will be chayiv misa. So how are we going to make sure that everyone stays out? That Aaron and his children and the Leviim should be there and should make sure that nobody enters and nobody will be chayiv misa. That they'll be guards, and what's the purpose of them being guards? That the Yidden that don't belong in there should not enter into the Mishkan. So in the whole content of the psukim, it's speaking about the detail of Shmiras HaMikdash that's placed as a position, placed as an obligation on the Kohanim to make sure that people stay out. But the main definition of the mitzvah that the Rambam understood, which is the fact that the Mikdash itself demands this, that you don't see in the psukim over here. The Rebbe in the Order says, and how did the Rambam know this, that this is the main definition of the mitzvah? Because you see that this mitzvah applied even in the Beis HaMikdash. And at the Beis HaMikdash, the gates were closed, and nobody would enter. Nobody was able to enter. And still the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash is there as well. So you see that really there's a deeper meaning in this mitzvah. It's not just about keeping people out, but standing guard. And keeping people out also adds honor, and therefore the Beis HaMikdash itself demands that honor that you should stand there. So therefore the Rambam doesn't bring the psukim, because that would sort of give you the wrong definition, or it doesn't really prove fully the definition of the Rambam, of what the mitzvah of Shmira is. As the Rebbe concludes here, so in these psukim, you don't have a clear proof, and a full clear proof for the main idea of what the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash is all about, which according to the Rambam is only for the kavod of the Beis HaMikdash. Chelek uprat beBeis HaMikdash atzmai. It's a part and it's a detail of the Beis HaMikdash itself. The Beis HaMikdash itself is demanding this honor. Therefore, the Rambam doesn't bring these psukim. The Rebbe in Order 31 points out, but the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs does bring the psukim. right in the beginning to define the mitzvah itself, even though the Rambam there also holds the same definition of the mitzvah. But in Sefer HaMitzvahs, the Rambam is bringing the psukim in a more general sense to give you the general source of this mitzvah, as the Rambam always does. But in Sefer HaYad, which is a Sefer HaLachas, the Rambam is more medayik to define the actual halacha of this mitzvah, how to find it properly, and therefore he only brings these psukim later to tell us upon who this chiyuv lies, on the Kayanim and the Leviim, but not to define the mitzvah itself. The Rabbi continues, so we've answered some of the questions that we asked here in the beginning of the Sikha, but we didn't answer all the questions. And the Rebbe will add some more questions. In addition to the fact that the other questions that we had were not yet answered. We had a question about why is the mitzvah only at night? What's the lelecha svivoi tamid? That the Rebbe didn't answer yet. So in addition to that, this explanation over here that we're explaining, that there could be two different approaches to understanding how to define the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash, and the way that Rambam defines it, that it's something that the Mikdash itself demands dishonor. This needs an additional clarification, and especially in regards to the repetition of the Mishnah in Masechta Tamid and the Mishnah in Masechta Midas, as we'll see. Aleph, number one, the question here is, Im Shmiras HaMikdash mitam kovid, if in fact the guarding of the Mikdash is for the reason of kovid, to give honor, she'ein adayim lepalteren sheyesh olav shemrim lepalteren chulu, haregam kesheyeshnam rak shemrim achadim, even if there are only a few guards, or yafil rak echad, or even just one guard, possibly, have a palteren sheyesh olav shemrim. So it has the honor. You're giving it the honor. It's a place that's very prominent and it demands honor. You have a few shemrim there, it gets honor. Shebezeh who covered the mikdash. So now the mikdash got its honor. The fact that there are 3 places where the Kainim were positioned and 21 places that the Leviim were positioned for their guard. All these additional places, that's the chayvas gavre, that's what lies upon them, that they have to stand guard in these 24 places because of, as we said before, to make sure that to keep people out. That's the chayvas gavre that lies upon them. It's a separate thing. That's the other aspect of Shmiras HaMikdash. But as far as the fact that the building of the Beis HaMikdash demands that you honor it, and since Ein a doime, a paltrin that has shemrim, that's a way to give honor. So if you have shemrim there, if you have 1, 2, 3 shemrim there, so you're giving honor. You have to give it honor, you're giving the honor. If so, ma tam nemra mishnah b'chof alef mekaymes alavim shemrim b'mesechta midas hamikdash. So why is it that the Mishnah that tells us about the 21 places that the Leviim stood guard in the Beis HaMikdash, why is this mentioned in Masechta Midas HaMikdash, which speaks about the building itself, the structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself? Meyacha shemitzad HaMikdash, as far as the honor that the Mikdash itself demands, it's enough to have a few shemrim to give it its honor. Shiyeh nikra palterin sheyesh olav shemrim. So now it's a palterin that's given its honor. It's a palterin that has shemrim, and therefore 1, 2, 3 would be enough. So dafke in the Mishnah of Masechta Midas, which is discussing the actual structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself, is where it brings the 21 places, which is seemingly only a chiyuv gavre. It's an additional obligation that the Eibusha placed upon the Kayanim and the Leviim, not because it's adding to the honor of the Beis HaMikdash. If the Beis HaMikdash demands that it should be honored, so by having any shemrim there, 1 or 2 or 3, you gave it its honor. So the additional ones are not relevant over here in this Masechta that's talking about the honor that the Mikdash itself demands. Similarly, we could ask regarding the Mishnah of Shmira that it says in Masechta Tamid. The question over here is, in the connection of the union of Shmira to Masechta Tamid, in Yana Be'ikir. Let's look a little bit deeper into seeing what this Masechta is really about. It's not just about any of the Avodas of the Kainim and the Beis HaMikdash. In Yana Be'ikir, Hulavayer Avodas HaTamid. It's coming to explain the Avodas of the Korban Tamid. Ukishema Masechta Tamid. And as the name of the Masechta indicates that it's a Masechta of Tamid. K'mashkasav Rambam, as Rambam writes in Pirush HaMishnayis, Shemesachta Tamid Ein Ba Dibur Lo Yal Dva Chochmeh, doesn't tell you any Chochmeh, V'lo Yal Dva Issa V'heter, no halachas of Issa V'heter, Elas Sipur. It teaches you, tells you the story, the order and the story of how they would bring the karbanis of Tamid and so on every day. Shu Oimeh Eich Choyim Akriven HaTamid, Kedei Lasses Kain Tamid. To know, to learn from here how this has to be done constantly. So, Masechta Tamid is a Masechta that talks specifically about the carbon Tamid and other daily constant Avedis that were done in the Beis HaMikdash, as the Rebbe brings in Oster 37. That's the theme of the Masechta. If so, Umadua Huvuba Sidrei Hashmire Shalakayanim. Why, if so, does it begin and bring the Seder of the Shmire with the Kainim was standing guard? True, it's also an Aveda. But it's not an Aveda that belongs into this specific category of Aveda, which is the Avedis of Tamid. The Avedis HaKainim v'chulu. If you want to bring it in a place where you have more in general, all the Avedis of the Kainim, had is a Shaykh l'Mesechtas Adonis b'Avedis HaKainim v'chulu. You have other Mesechtas that tell us the halachas of the Kainim, the Avedis of the Kainim, Kagan Yumes, Vachim, Menachis, chulu. There are other Mesechtas that talk about this. V'lav l'Mesechta Tamid Adonai be'ike b'seider Avedis HaTamid. And it doesn't refer to Masechta Tamid, but not, it doesn't belong in Masechta Tamid, which is specifically discussing the daily Avedis that they had to do, starting from the Tamid in the morning. And as I mentioned, the Rebbe brings in Order 37. There's the Trumas Hadeshen, and the Seder of the Marochis, and the Dishum Mizbeach HaPnimi, and the Dishum of the Menorah. All those daily Avedis that it did. That's the theme of Masechta Tamid. It's not talking about the Avedis of Kain and Bechlal. So why does Shmiras HaMikdash come in there? Gimel, another question here is, and here the Rebbe goes a step deeper into really understanding what Shmiras HaMikdash is all about. Gam tzarech oid bir, we need additional clarification, additional explanation. Be'etzem HaPirish, with the very pshat that we said before, sheshmiras HaMikdash hiprat b'mitzvahs Beis HaMikdash atzmai. That this mitzvah is a detail related to the Beis HaMikdash itself. The Beis HaMikdash itself demands this honor. And that was our explanation why it's brought in the beginning of Masechta Midas that talks about the measurements and the shape and how to build the very structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself. So the question is, Haregam lahafia bir, even according to this explanation, Shehu mishum kavod HaMikdash, that the purpose of this Shmirah is the kavod of the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash demands this honor. Harezerak sha'ashmirah b'shvil kavod HaMikdash chulu. It's the Shmirah that's being done for the purpose of the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash demands that you should honor it. That's the pshat over here. But is it part of the structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself? Does it have any relevance to the actual structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself? No. So then the question, if so, still remains, why is this brought in the Mishnah of Masechta Midas that discusses the very measurements and the size and the shape and whatever of the Beis HaMikdash itself? There's nothing in this Masechta where you discuss any of the Avedas done in the Beis HaMikdash, including an Aveda where its purpose is to give the honor to the Beis HaMikdash itself. True, it's for the Beis HaMikdash, but it's not the Beis HaMikdash itself. It's not relevant to the actual structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself. This is an obligation. This is a mitzvah that the Kainim have to stand guard to give honor to the Beis HaMikdash. So this is a chiyuv upon them, upon the Kainim, to give this honor. It's not about the structure of the Beis HaMikdash, anything new that we're telling you, any change we're telling you about the structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself. So why is it in Masechta Midas? In the end of the day, the hezbollah that we said before is not sufficient to explain how it comes into the Masechta that discusses just the sizes and the measurements and the shape and everything as far as the structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself. So here in Sivav, the Rebbe will give us yet a deeper, third and deeper understanding of what the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash is all about. So we'll understand by first beginning with the answer that some give, the question that we brought before in the beginning of the Sikha. Im hashmira, that is, himitam kovet. If the point of the Shmira in the Beis HaMikdash is for the honor, so then why was that Shmira not done by day as well? And the answer they give is, during the day, it's not necessary to have any guards for the purpose of giving honor. Kula yoyim kavod. By the Kohanim walking back and forth and doing their work there in the Beis HaMikdash, that itself gives the greatest honor. Ava balayla, she'im bayavoida. But at night, when there is no work being, there's no avodah done in the Beis HaMikdash, then then it's necessary to show honor and to stand guard, to show the greatness of this building of the Beis HaMikdash. This is the answer that they give. When the place is full and it's hustling and bustling, then it's not necessary to give any additional honor. That is the honor. When it's empty, when people are not there at all, so then you have to stand shmira to give it its honor. So the Rebbe says, "V'tzarech bi," or this answer needs an explanation. What exactly is the meaning of this? That there's honor given to the Beis HaMikdash by the Kohanim being there and doing their avodah. What comparison is there between actually standing guard and the fact that there's people inside the Beis HaMikdash doing their avodah? It's two totally different things. The Rambam says a palterin that has guards is a more honorable place. So that's l'chayra only when you have guards, people standing guard. That's what it is. How could you replace that? Why is that not necessary when you have people walking around and it's busy and people are doing things there in this place? So then you don't have to give it this kavod. How does that replace the fact that people are busy doing their avodah there? How does that express any kavod? A palterin has to have guards, regardless if it's empty or it's full with people inside. There has to be some kind of a comparison over here, and there's a deeper definition of what the kavod is all about, and therefore that kavod is fulfilled by the fact that there are Kohanim doing their avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. What is that? The Rebbe says, and therefore we will say as follows. It appears to say as follows. The shmira zu mipnei hakavod in yana. What is this shmira really all about? This shmira that we say that for the purpose of honor, there has to be a shmira. The idea here is shelo yasichu daita me'hamikdash, not to take off your attention of the Beis HaMikdash. U'kamay shekasav Arosh, and the source of this is Arosh, right in the beginning of Masechta Midas, or Tamid that is. Kavod HaMikdash shelo yasichu daita mimena. The honor of the Beis HaMikdash is not to take your mind off of it. Not by day and not by night. That is the definition of kavod. Not to be masiach das. And the Rebbe explains what he means by this. When you talk about not to be masiach das from something, we have other examples in halacha where it talks about the concept of hesach hadas. So the Rebbe will clarify very what he means by this hesach hadas. The hesach hadas we're talking about over here is not the kind of hesach hadas that's brought up right by kachim, where if a person does not pay attention, he leaves kachim without seeing what's going on. So then there's a chashash, there's a concern that it may have come in contact with tumah, and therefore you have to constantly pay attention that nothing should go wrong. It's not, the hesach hadas is not just about negating that nothing should go wrong, or anything similar. Ki'im shlilas hesach hadas, the very fact that there's never a moment that someone is not paying attention to this Beis HaMikdash, meira al reimemus v'gadlus habayis, that itself expresses and elevates the status and the greatness of this building. There's always people here. There are always people that are either standing guard or walking around. There are always people paying attention to this. They don't take their mind off of this forever. That's the concept here that the Rosh means when he says that the kavod of the Beis HaMikdash is not to be masiach das. When you have an item that just sits there on the table, that just sits somewhere and nobody looks at it, or you have a building that nobody cares about it, and people come there every once in a while for some purpose, but otherwise it's just no one pays attention to it. So that lowers its status of importance. That lowers its status, that it's something that's insignificant in people's eyes. The very fact that there's something that there's one person there, there's another person there, there's another person there, and there's people that are busy with this all the time, that elevates its very status of prominence. That changes the status of this place. So the actual shmira is not just about the fact that the Beis HaMikdash demands its honor. Because it's such a holy and great place, it's deserving and it demands that it should get its right honor. No, by doing the Shmira, you are actually making a change in the very status of the building itself. You elevate its status, as the Rabbi here says, the fact that you're constantly there paying attention to this place elevates the status of the Beis HaMikdash. That's a much deeper understanding of what the Shmiras Beis HaMikdash is all about. Val derech, and the Rebbe brings an example for this, where do we find this definition of Hesach Hadas? Al derech ha'inyan mit tefillin v'tzitz, similar to the halacha of Hesach Hadas that there is when a person is wearing the tefillin, or the Kohen Gadol wears the tzitz, shekol zman shehein olav, that as long as the tefillin and the tzitz are on you, lo yasiach daite mihen, you should not take your mind off of them. Afil rega echad, even just for one moment, mitzat kiddushasan, because of their holiness. Right? If you have an item that's not so holy, so then you can take your mind off of it. But if it's so holy, you can't take your mind off of it. So the very fact that you're not being Masiach Das actually expresses the holiness that it has, because it's so holy, so therefore you can't take your mind off of it. So in our case, the Shmira, which is not being Masiach Das, there's always someone busy and paying attention to the Beis HaMikdash, elevates the very cheftzah, the very status of the Beis HaMikdash itself, changes and gets elevated. So now the Rebbe says, "V'hinei inyan shmira zu shalei yasiach daita mimenu hu inyan ba'bayis atzmai." This idea, not to be Masiach Das from the Beis HaMikdash itself, this is something that accomplishes something, it changes something in the actual building itself. As I just explained, it's not only that you have to give it its honor that it deserves because it's such a holy place, so it lies upon the people to give it its honor. So that's also something which comes from the Mikdash, because it's so holy, you have to give it its honor. It's not about giving its honor. The very Shmira changes and elevates the status of the Bayis itself. So this gives us a much deeper understanding of why this is learned in the Mishnah of Masechta Midas that discusses the actual building itself, the size, the shape, and the building itself. Meaning, this is not an Aveda which is done in the Beis HaMikdash. That's the place where you give the honor to the Beis HaMikdash. This brings a chshivus. This elevates the status of the Mikdash itself. If we pay attention to the actual words of the Rambam, you can see this in the Rambam itself. You can't compare the actual structure itself, the actual palace itself, if it has guards or if it doesn't have guards. Okay, so according to the Pshat that the Rebbe said before, the Rambam is only bringing this to explain why standing guard adds honor. The Rambam wants you to understand, why does standing guard add honor? So the Rambam says, because a place that has guards is more honorable. So this is a way how to add honor. Now the Rebbe is learning the Rambam kipshutai, that the actual palterin itself changes. It elevates the actual palterin itself. The Rambam is not just trying to express and explain why this does give honor. It actually changes the palterin itself. So this is not like some other Aveda here, that the place where it's done is Begimel Mekayim is Chulu Bebeis HaMikdash. That's done in the 3 places or 21 places in the Beis HaMikdash. Ki'im Zuyasiyeh Bechashivos Beis HaMikdash. You're accomplishing something in the prominence and the level and the status of the Beis HaMikdash itself. B'shmira ala palterin, when you guard a palace, Mishanan a palterin. You elevate, you actually change the status of the palterin itself. It's not anymore said the same like another palace that does not have these shemrim. That is the essence of the Shmiras HaMikdash according to the Rambam. The Shelo Yasiach Daita HaMikdash, that the Rosh also says that it's something that makes an actual change in the Cheftzah, it elevates the Cheftzah itself. Similarly, Alpi Maimer Azal, L'chol Mishal Nivne Beis HaMikdash B'Yamav. Anybody that in his lifetime the Beis HaMikdash was not rebuilt, it's as if the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed in his lifetime. The Rebbe brings there from the Rogachover that the Churban Beis HaMikdash is an ongoing thing, that as long as it's not rebuilt, there's the Churban that's happening again and again, and how much we have to think about this and how much we have to work on rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash. So Lefi Ashita, the Churban Abayis, Beis Hamikdash hu inyan nimshach. So according to the opinion that the Churban Beis Hamikdash is an ongoing thing, yesh leimar b'hatoyeles the Masechta Midas. So we could say regarding the toyeles, the purpose of what Masechta Midas is teaching us, all the details about the Beis Hamikdash. Shehu zeiche Midas Hamikdash. It mentions and it tells you all the sizes and measurements of the Beis Hamikdash, for the purpose that when the Beis Hamikdash will immediately be rebuilt, yesh lishmar v'lasis atavnis ahu, so you'll make it in this size, in this shape, v'atavnis, v'atzuris, v'ha'erech, v'pnei shu beruach HaKodesh. These are all things that we know, beruach HaKodesh, k'may sha'amar HaKol b'ksav miyad Hashem alai hiskel. The Eibishter tells us, this is beruach HaKodesh, that the Eibishter said exactly how it should be built. So hine, al yidei yidiyazu the shmiras hamikdash. When a person learns about these halachas, to know how to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash that's being destroyed every single day, and the midaisav, to know all the sizes and shapes. As we know, that Rebbe kocht sich in this inyan that we should learn Hilchas Beis Habchira, especially in the times of the 3 weeks that's coming up not long from now. Which also includes another part of what the Beis Hamikdash is really about. That you're not Mesiach Das in the Beis Hamikdash. That elevates the status of the Beis Hamikdash. Harei zeh gam ato churban Beis Hamikdash b'dargosei de palterin sheyesh olav shoymen chulu. What a person has to realize is that when he's learning about the Beis Hamikdash, because he wants to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash, what does he want to rebuild? He wants to rebuild not only the physical structure of the Beis Hamikdash, but the chshivas of the Beis Hamikdash, the holy and great place of the Beis Hamikdash. That's what he's learning about, to know these measurements to be able to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. It's not just a physical place that was destroyed and that we have to think about constantly that this churban is happening again. A person should realize that it's the chshivas and the real status of the Beis Hamikdash that's being destroyed that we learn about over here in Masechta Tamid to tell us about how to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore the Tana included the Shmiras Hamikdash to give us the appreciation to understand that it's not just a physical structure. There's the additional chshivas of the Beis Hamikdash. The Rebbe continues now, comes back to explain and answer the questions that he asked before. The Rebbe begins with the question of Masechta Tamid. So why is the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash brought in Masechta Tamid? So the Rebbe's question before was, yes, it's true that you could say that one aspect of the Shmira is an Aveda that's placed upon the Kayanim. And Masechta Tamid speaks about the Avedas, certain Avedas of the Kayanim. But the Rebbe's question was, but this Masechta speaks specifically about a certain category of their Aveda. It speaks about the Aveda of the Tamid, of the constant daily Avedas that they did. Where does the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash come into that theme? Al pizeh yuvan zeh. So now we'll understand this fact here. Shekosav Rambam u'shmira zu mitzvah kol halayla. That this mitzvah of Shmira is at nighttime. So that's another question that the Rebbe asked. Why is the mitzvah only at night? And v'zeh shenishnis b'Masechta Tamid. And also, why is this brought in Masechta Tamid? So the Rebbe ties beautifully these two things together. That one answers the other. By Yom, during the day, the Kayanim did their Aveda in the Beis Hamikdash as Chalasi Aveda Satamid Babayker, which began early in the morning with the Korban Tamid Mishah Sheheir Pnei Mizrach, when the sun came up and the eastern part of the sky was light. Ubakravas HaKarbanis Hayitzarech Li is Karvana. Doing the Aveda in the Beis Hamikdash wasn't just a simple activity. It included also kavana, the right intentions that they have to have when they bring these karbanas. And there are 6 things actually that I have to keep in mind in doing the Aveda. So obviously, when the Kayanim are there doing their Aveda, and it's not just an external Aveda, they're actually paying attention and thinking about certain things in their Aveda related to the Beis Hamikdash, as the Rebbe points out in Order 47. This is the absolute opposite of the Beis Hamikdash being a place which is empty and no one's paying attention to it. If the definition of the honor is about what? The definition of the honor over here is that you elevate the status of a place. You elevate the very status, not that you have to accord it its honor. You have to give it its honor, so you just have 1, 2, 3 guards standing there, that gives it its honor. But if the idea is that you want to cause more, you want to elevate the very status and prominence of the place, so that could be accomplished over here by the Aveda, by the fact that people are walking around. Right? So when we say that there's Aveda, it's not only walking around, but they're doing their Aveda. So when we say that the Aveda that's done in the Beis Hamikdash serves as a Shmira, that's because we understand now that the whole idea of the Shmira is to change the status of the Beis Hamikdash. Aval balayla, But when it comes nighttime, she'ein aveda bebeis hamikdash. There is no aveda done in the Beis Hamikdash. Right? At nighttime, there's nothing there; it's empty. Nitztavu b'shmiras hamikdash. Over here comes in the mitzvah. That's the time when the mitzvah has to be fulfilled. That they shouldn't take their minds off the Beis Hamikdash. In other words, of course, really, the mitzvah of shmiras hamikdash in essence is a mitzvah day and night. There is no source in any pasuk that limits this mitzvah to only by day and not by night. And the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs himself says, Tomid, that the mitzvah should be Tiyu Luli Lufanai Tomid, as the Rebbe pointed out in the beginning of the Sikha. Elamai, by day, that the point of the mitzvah of Shmirah was accomplished. It was done by the fact that people are there and busy doing their Avodah, and with Kavanah, that automatically elevates the status of the place. Masha'en came by night when nobody is there, so you need that Shmirah to maintain that status of the place, that it's on a higher level because of the presence of people that are there. So this is the specific connection to what it talks about in Masechta Tamid. Shemai time in Nishnas B'Tchilasa, and therefore it's brought in the beginning of this Masechta. Ki toichen shmira zu nasa yidei avodas hatamid v'akarbanos b'chlal. This shmira is done through the tamid and the karbanos that are brought every day in the Beis Hamikdash. So it's mamish beautiful how the Tana brings it in over here, because Anachanami, the Tana is talking about Masechta Tamid, which is the karbanos. But these karbanos, the daily karbanos that brought the Kohanim into the Beis Hamikdash, and there were people there busy in the Beis Hamikdash on a daily basis, had sort of a dual purpose. It also served the purpose of creating a shmirah, creating a certain level of prominence and elevating and changing the status of the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore the Tana begins with saying that by nighttime it was empty, and therefore you had to have people to create that status, to give that status to the Beis Hamikdash by standing there. By day you had the Aveda, and Taka, the Masechta talks about the Aveda of the Tamid, the daily Avedas that were done there, but because the Tana brought the Shmirah first, we will now see the connection, and we understand that the Aveda of the Tamid, when the Kohanim were there constantly in the Beis Hamikdash, served another purpose. It also accomplished the Shmirah to elevate the status of the Beis Hamikdash. So it's a flow, it's one inyan. Based on this, we can say that there's an actual nafkamina la'alocha. When it says that they would guard the Beis Hamikdash all night, doesn't necessarily mean the entire night. It means until when they began the Aveda of Tamid. That was the two aspects of the Shmirah. The Shmirah by night was actual guarding, and the Shmirah by day was when the Kohanim came in to do the Aveda of Tamid. So as soon as the Kohanim come in to do the Aveda of Tamid, so the shift of the Shmirah of the night could go out, and it's handed over to the Aveda of the Tamid. And the Rebbe in Order 51 points out that this is not necessarily, or in Order 53, the Rebbe points out, in Order 51 and 53, the Rebbe points out that this is not necessarily beginning from when Netzachama, from when the sun came up. It started even earlier. They came even before Alois HaShachar. They would already come in and start making the preparations for the Aveda of the day. Al Kalpanim Azman Shaloilam Ein Ma'achirin Yoser, or Al Kalpanim, the time when they're never allowed to enter into the Beis Hamikdash later than that, which was very early on, even before it became day. Sha'az, as long as the Kohanim already arrived for the daily Aveda, al yedei Avedas HaKohanim, Miskayim, Teichen Ha'inyin, the Shmiras HaMikdash, Ve'ein Tzorich B'Shmirah. So you already have what Shmirah is supposed to accomplish, and you don't need to fulfill the actual mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash. So therefore there could be an nafkamin over here. It doesn't mean like usually the mitzvah of a night. You can say until Alois HaShachar, or maybe B'diavad until Netzachama. It's not a mitzvah where there's any pasuk in the Torah that it says that this is a night mitzvah. It's not a night mitzvah. It's a mitzvah for by day and by night. Elamai by day, b'poil mitzad the matzav in the Beis Hamikdash, there's no place to do this mitzvah. The status of the Beis Hamikdash is already elevated by the Aveda there. By night, you have to maintain that status, and you have to be there during the night as well. As soon as the Kohanim of the day come in, so then it's the Shmirah already becomes irrelevant. Now the Rebbe goes weiter. Al pizeish levayim mashav b'mesechta Tamid huvu rak hagimel b'mekaymes sha'kohanim sheimnim. So this explains why in Masechta Tamid it only brings the three places that the Kohanim did the Shmirah. V'ila b'mesechta midas huvu gam she'alavim ha'yishemnim b'chof alaf mekaymes. And over there it brings the additional places, the 21 places that even the Leviim did the Shmirah as well. So here the Rebbe says it fits beautifully with the theme of both of these Masechtas. The Masechta Tamid, the Masechta of Tamid, Loi Bala Vayim Mitzvahs Shmiras HaMikdash Mitzadin Yon Noi Hu. This is not the place where the Tana is focusing on telling you the halacha of Shmiras HaMikdash. Kiyim lahadgish, it's just coming to emphasize achas mipu'ulois avodos hatamid hashave o ba behemshech l'shmiras beis hamikdash. The Tana here is bringing the shmira before because the avodos of the tamid, besides the avodah of what they wore for themselves, the avodah karbanis, it served a dual purpose. It also created a shmira for the Beis HaMikdash. It elevated the status of the Beis HaMikdash. Mitzad that second thing that the Avodah of the Talmud did, there's a connection to the shmira that was done by night. The shlilas hesach hadas ma'amikdash, to not ever not pay attention to what's going on into the Beis HaMikdash. That's the connection here. There are various different levels to what degree a person is not Masiach Das to something. When you pay attention to something, there's many different levels to this. There's the way it's done by night, that's the way it's done by day. So the Tana is telling you that there's the way they were not Masiach Das by day through the Avedis of Karbanis. There's the way you're not Masiach Das by night through the Kainim standing on the Shmirah. So hine, since the whole inyan of Shmirah is brought over here in just behemshach to one detail of the carbon tamid that the kainim brought in the Beis HaMikdash, hine bezene gave beikar inyan Shmirah sakainim. Over here, what's relevant is only the places where the kainim did their Shmirah. Why? Shemitzvas Shmirah say sheyu akainim shemrim mibafnim. The kainim's positions of Shmirah were on the inside. They did the Shmir on the inside of the Beis HaMikdash. There's a machlekes exactly where on the inside, but more on the inside and not on the outside. So then, the hemshech to that, we're saying that when the Avodah of the Talmud began at the Beis HaMikdash, Nishtal Hesach Hadas Zeh, this Hesach Hadas of to not pay attention on the inside is now negated because the Kainim come inside to do their Avodah. So therefore it's not necessary to have anymore the Shmirah of the Kainim on the inside. That's what we're talking about, how these two things are mashlim one for another. You have the Shmirah and you have the Avodah of the Talmud. So therefore we're only bringing this category of the Shmirah mibifnim that's connected to the Avodah of the Kainim that's done mibifnim. Valkain, and therefore, there's no place over here to bring as well Gama Chof Aleph Mekaimis, the other 21 places, Shalavim Yishemrim, that the Levim would stand guard, Shehem Yishemrim Mibachutz, they stood guard on the outside. The Ein Zed Doimeklal, you can't, first of all, it's physically not in the same place. It's on the outside, it's not on the inside. But the Rebbe says even more, it's a different kind of Shmirah in the sense of the Hesach HaDas. It's a different level of not being Masiach Das. Ein zed doime klal lehesach hadas hanishtal al yedeh avodas hatamid. You can't compare the fact that you're paying attention to the place by being inside the building and doing avodah on the inside to not being Masiach Das just by standing guard outside the building. It's not the same thing. You can understand it very simply. If you have a building that nobody walks into it, but there's guard standing outside, that's a certain attention. You elevate the status of this property, of this building to some extent, but the Avodah on the inside is already on a different level. People are inside, this is a place that's important, it's busy, people are working there, so therefore it's a different category. Elo, shebachlal masayim moneh, B'chlal Masai Mana, that's just like the mashal of 200 includes 100 in it. Sha'avedas HaTalmud Patra Loirak Shmiras HaKainim Elegam Shmiras HaLevim. The Avodah of the Talmud, which is on the inside and which is paying a deeper attention and being busy on the inside, would obviously pater you. You would be exempt of doing the lesser Shmirah, paying attention to a lesser degree by the Levim standing on the outside. So that's the explanation of Masechta Talmud. So the Levian's Shmir on the outside is not relevant to the Avodah of Masechta Talmud that's talking about the Avodah of the Kainim on the inside, which is a higher level of not being Masiach Das when you're inside. Now Masechta Midais. But in Masechta Midais, Shemavayir Ba Shmiras HaMikdash B'inyan Na De Chashivas Beis HaMikdash Atzmai. Here we're discussing the fact that the Shmiras HaMikdash actually adds chshivas. It actually elevates the very status of the building itself. It changes its status to become a palace that has guards. So here the Mishnah does explain both the 3 places that the Kainim do the Shmirah and the 21 places that the Leviim do the Shmirah. It tells you all the places and all the people that were there doing the Shmirah. Why? Even though it is true that even if you have only just a few guards, they create this fact that now this is a palace that has guards. But by adding more guards there, even if that chiyuv is a chiyuv that's placed upon the people, that they have an obligation upon them to be there and to do that guard for whatever reason. Even if the reason is, like the Rebbe said before, in order to keep strangers, Klal Yisrael, that don't belong out over there. But you have not one person, not 2, 3, 4, 5. You have many people that are doing shmirah there for whatever reason. Mitaisev gamkein b'shmirasa mitzada mikdash. This in itself enhances the point of the shmirah for the purpose of the mikdash itself, which is to elevate the status of the mikdash. Shekulam poyalim b'kavod v'gadlus hamikdash. They are all effective and elevate the status of the Beis Hamikdash. Kulam chelik bezeh shenasa palterin sheyashol of shemrim. They all are playing a role and all adding to the fact that this palterin this palace now became a place that has shemrim on it. Right? If you have a place they have only one shomer there, that elevates the status to one extent. If you have a place that has 5 guards there, that elevates its status even more. If you have 10 guards, 20 guards, they are all adding and playing a role in elevating the status of the place. So now that we understand the deeper understanding that the Rebbe told us here about Shmiras HaMikdash, it's about changing the Cheftzah. It's about elevating the status. So therefore, every person, all of the Chaf Aleph Mekaymis and the Gimel Mekaymis at the Kainim stood guard, they all add to elevating the status of the Beis HaMikdash. So in the Masechta Midas, where it discusses the structure of the Mikdash itself, we bring in the Sinyan. We bring in all of the people that are standing guard that contribute to elevating the status of the Beis HaMikdash. Alright, that's the chiddush of what the Rebbe is saying here. Masha'enkin, if you're going to say, according to what the Rebbe said in the beginning of the Sikha, that the point over here is, yes, the Beis HaMikdash demands that you have to honor it. Yet it's a mitzvah, you have to give honor to the Beis HaMikdash. So, if you have one person standing there, 2 people, 3, you gave it honor. Al derech, there's a mitzvah of pnei seva token, v'adarta pnei zaken. You have to give honor. So you stand up, you gave honor. Over here, you have to give honor. When you have guards, you give honor. So you have guards, you give honor. Masha'enkin, if it's about changing the status of the place, you have an item that one person pays attention to it. That elevates its prominence to some degree. You have a place, you have an item that 2 people, 3 people, 10 people, 100 people are paying attention to it, are following it. That makes it even more important. That makes it even more prominent. And therefore, every person standing guard by the Beis HaMikdash adds and contributes to the prominence and the status that we are elevating the Beis HaMikdash to. Al pianal, so now based on this, that the concept of the shmira here is for people to stand guard and to always pay attention to the Beis HaMikdash. Yesh levaya mashkasav Rambam, we could understand the additional line that the Rambam says in Sefer HaMitzvahs, loleches svivay tamid, to walk around constantly. B'shayches l'mitzvahs shmiras HaMikdash in relation to this mitzvah. And here the Rebbe brings a braise in the Gemara. Tana, we learned in a braise, ish harabayis hayim mechazara kol mishmar or mishmar. There was a person of the harabayis that would walk around by every guard post v'chol mishmar she'ena oimid, and any of them that were not standing. Nikar shehu yashan, and it's noticeable that he's sleeping. Chayvtei b'makol, he would hit him with a stick to wake him up. So, the simple pshat over here is you just sort of had to have a guard for the guards. You had to have somebody to make sure that the guards are not falling asleep on their job. So the Rebbe explains in a deeper way. Mikivin she'inyin hashmira mipnei hakoved. The whole idea of the shmira is for the honor, to elevate the status of the Beis HaMikdash. Shu masha'ei masichin daita mimenu. That you always have to pay attention to this place. Harei ish harabayis b'shah shehoya oilach svivai. This person that was going around to seeing what's going on with all the guards, mi mishmar la mishmar, from one position to another, la'avtiach, to make sure that the people there should not fall asleep and not pay attention to the Beis HaMikdash. This itself, that you have this person walking around, so it's not just a technicality that you have to have a guard for the guards. The very fact that he's walking around and waking up people, that's a greater level of attention. that you're giving to the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore that itself elevates the status of the Beis HaMikdash even more. Teichen mitzvah, Shmiras HaMikdash, which is what the whole Teichen of the mitzvah is about. We can understand this in very simple terms. When you have a certain level of security on a building, on a site, whatever it is, but then you have a double layer of security, a triple layer of security, that itself creates a much greater status of what this place is all about. So over here, by the very fact that this person is walking around and he's making sure to wake up people, that itself brings him greater attention. You're giving more attention to this Beis HaMikdash. According to this, we could explain another interesting thing. It says in the Mishnah in the beginning of Talmud as follows: Beis of Tinis, Beis of Nitzutz. Those were the two places. Hayu aliyos. They were on the second floor. And the Raven would stand guard over there. Who are these Raven? Raven means youngsters. They were youngsters that they didn't reach the age to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. So they couldn't serve in the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore they stood guard over there. Pirsham Mefarshim, the Mefarshim go even a step further and say they were actually younger than Bar Mitzvah, and they stood guard over there. So the question over here is, the question is asked, how do they leave this mitzvah for children that can't fulfill the mitzvah? How could they fulfill this mitzvah b'chlal if they're not obligated, they have no das, they can't do the mitzvah? So how are we giving this mitzvah to the children? And based on what we said before, the whole point of the Shmira of the Beis HaMikdash is that you have to always have the das to pay attention to the Beis HaMikdash. Seemingly this question is even stronger. How do we leave this to the children that have no das? How could they do this mitzvah? However, based on how we described before, what the pshat and the position of this ish harabayis that would go around is, it wasn't just a technicality that he went around to wake up people. It's more than that. So he was going around and he was the guard on the guards. He was also a shomer. He was also doing the shmira in the sense of paying attention to the Beis HaMikdash. As the Rabbi before said, he's actually contributing to the attention of the Beis HaMikdash to a greater degree, not just a technicality of what he's doing. So if so, so you have a gadol, a person that's bar mitzvah, a person that's a gadol, and he's standing on top of the cotton and watching what he's doing, and there, right there, regarding many things that require machshava, that require that the cotton should be able to think for himself and have das. Mahani gamaise cotton b'tziruf machshava shel agad lo'im edagabav. You could have the action of the cotton, and you combine that to the machshava of the gadol that's standing there by him, and it's going to be a proper aveda or a proper shchita, for example. And there's different cases where this is applied. So the same thing over here. This person that's walking around is not just a veker that he wakes up people. He is oimed al gabam. He is doing this mitzvah of shmiras hamikdash. He's standing by them with this mitzvah. We could add another detail to this. Rebbe says, if you could combine a gadol to what a cotton does, when you actually need real machshav and kavanah, you have to have an intention about something specific, and nevertheless the gadol oimed al gabav helps for that. Over here, this concept of shmira, not to be masiach das, does not require an actual machshava that you have to concentrate on something. The very fact that people are standing here paying attention to the Beis HaMikdash, that gives the honor, that elevates the status of the Beis HaMikdash. That shows how people are not forgetting about the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, so it's enough if the gadol, the person that's walking around, is not mamish standing by him all the time, as it actually was. He was walking around from one mishmar to another. So l'chayre, by the gadol oimed al gabav, you have to have him there all the time. But over here the Rebbe adds, it wouldn't be necessary to have him by you every single moment. He would go around from one to another, and he would stand coming from one to another, and that is enough to be combined to the Aveda that the Ketanim do, and they stand there guard on the Beis HaMikdash, because this gives it the proper honor, and this does elevate the status of the Beis HaMikdash even when it's done through Ketanim. So, just as a conclusion to the Sikha, The Rabbi here, just to summarize, the Rabbi here taught us three efarim how you could understand the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash. Is the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash just a chiyuv on the gavra, that there are certain things that have to be managed in the Beis HaMikdash, and you have to guard, that those that don't belong should stay out, and that's what it's all about, to make sure that there's law and order in the Beis HaMikdash, and the Kohanim are the ones that are the police standing there to keep people out. Or the Rebbe says it goes a step deeper. The Beis HaMikdash, being such a holy place, demands honor. And the Kohanim have to stand there to give the honor to the Beis HaMikdash. Or the Rebbe's Machadish that it goes even a step deeper, that the Shmira itself changes and elevates the status, the prominence of this place. It actually makes it not stam a physical building, but it expresses and brings out the true chivas of what the Beis HaMikdash is, the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash, when people are standing there and guarding the Beis HaMikdash constantly.